How's everyone feeling? Okay? Yes? Yeah? All right. Our final speaker of the evening is going to tell us a little bit about toxic corporate environments. Because he had an experience not too long ago that gave him a bit of a revelation as far as this goes. He got to experience it for himself, and as a result, learned a pretty impactful lesson and message. Everyone, please welcome Waja.
Thank you, Brandon, and good evening, friends. As Brandon said, my name is Waja. I'm a professional speaker, marketer, the host of the Let's Talk Show podcast, and currently, I'm an account manager at Blakely. But 6 months ago, giving this bio would have been a little bit of a different vibe. Because 6 months ago, I had just quit my job. It was unexpected. It was unfortunate. It drew me to a time of uncertainty and unemployment. And the worst part was, it was completely and utterly unnecessary. It didn't need to happen. And it was tough. Because look, employment and the concept of employment carries with it a number of implications and complexities. On an economic level, of course, right off the bat, your employment is your fuel. It's fuel for your projects and your passions. But this grows even more complex the moment you have dependents, the moment you have family, the moment you have a partner. On a social level, employment can become even more complex because now you're in a world where having a job and the concept of job is still very important to the way that people understand you, the way that people size you up. One of the first things people ask when you're in a social setting or a networking setting is, what do you do? Because we still live in a society where there is a lot of stock placed in the value and importance of a person's work. And in that environment, when you're asked that question, if you're someone who's in between jobs or you're looking, you're in kind of an awkward situation because the moment you start expressing, well, I'm looking, I'm in between, I'm searching for the next thing, you get this awkward silence and you get this discomfort. Because in that moment, the other person has listened to what you're saying and started to assess and realize, oh my God, they're going to ask the question. So are you hiring? And it's uncomfortable. And because of that, when you express or when a person expresses that they're in between jobs, you get that anxious silence, a skirting of the gaze, as people look for anything else to say except accepting that sometimes people don't have work. And so if you're the other person, you start searching for other options. You start constructing this narrative around yourself based upon your passions, your projects, your hobbies, all of those things that you do, so that you sound in the end way more impressive than you did when you actually had that job. But what you're really trying to say is, I'm actually all right. I'm fine. I'm not worried. We're all good here. We don't need any help. But inside, you're still concerned. Inside, that insecurity remains. The literal lack of financial security at times, but also the social insecurity. And it's tough. 6 months ago, I quit my job, but I'm not here to talk to you about the rigors of unemployment. That's something that I think most everyone, maybe in this room, at least for myself, can affect with. I'm here to talk to you about why I quit that job in the first place. Because it was unnecessary. It truly did not need to happen. There were many roads we could have taken or ways the story ended, but it ended this way. And reflecting back on it now, I think what that really comes down to is the fact that there was a failure, not just on the organization's part, but on both our parts. There was a failure to diagnose a disease that lurked in the heart of that organization, a rot that lived at its core and that was spreading throughout the organization, which shall, of course, remain unnamed. And a failure to diagnose that disease meant that what started off as a very positive experience, because for a while things were amazing, soon transformed into one of the worst employment experiences of my life. And see, at the beginning though, it was amazing. Because I was taking on a new project. I was excited. This was creative. It was allowing me to flex new marketing muscles, and more importantly, I was getting to use my marketing powers for good, for a cause I actually cared about in the nonprofit sector. And people were receptive. They were looking for new ideas. They were looking to expand their horizons. I had a team that supported me and a supervisor that I looked up to. At least that last part remained true, and remains true to this day. But the rest of it changed, and changed more quickly than I would like. Because eventually, that excitement and receptiveness to new ideas on the part of management and leadership became a smile and a tolerant nod. And then it became outright hostility to any opinion that was not expressed exactly in line with what mid to senior management mandated for the organization. And anyone who did was cited as not fit, as not the right culture for the organization that they were working for. I think the first time that I recognized that there might have been something a little off was when we were in a video shoot with the chief executive officer. It was myself, a couple of employees, and some vendors. And the video shoot wasn't quite going the CEO's way. He wasn't able to get through this one line. And when he wasn't able to get through that one line for like the 10th time, he turned around and screamed at one of the employees whose entire job was just to help him get through the script. It shocked all of us, including the vendors, into complete silence. I remember being surprised when I walked up to a member of mid-management just to ask a simple question, and instead got handed the keys to her car with instructions to go grab another junior employee to go and unload it for him. I can tell you that was not part of my job. I remember a moment where a senior executive stuck their finger about this far from my face and waved it back and forth, telling me not to tell them how to run social media for the organization because they had their finger on the pulse of the audience. I assume it was this finger. The irony, of course, is that I was hired to manage social media. So I was told not to tell them how to do my job, which was a little confusing, as you might imagine. But I think one of the times I was most furious was when I found out that after most meetings, anytime I expressed an opinion, my supervisor was dragged aside into another room and told that I had had another one of my Mo moments. I don't know why it wasn't just a moment, but that's fine. Or that I had expressed and they had received a wall of Mo attitude. That was one of my favorites, a wall. It was the visualization that really got me. I assume it would have to be like a moving wall to receive a wall of Mo attitude. But if you think all of this together, experiences that I'm touching on lightly and experiences that I can't talk about because they're not mine to tell. They're experiences that I was simply witness to. If you think that, coupled with a culture and an environment of belittlement, of exclusion of anyone outside the central clique of leadership, of backbiting and gossip, was enough to push me out of that organization, you'd be absolutely wrong. Because in the end, I wanted that job. In the end, I needed that job. In the end, I was connected to cause enough that it was enough to push me beyond any of the interpersonal experiences that I was having in that organization in any way. Those just attacked, my culture, my personality, and my self-respect. That's not enough to push someone out of a job. In the end, what it took to get me out of the door of that organization was an attack on career. Was the moment that the chief executive officer and the chief development officer demanded that I drop out of a speaking engagement at the third largest fundraising conference in the world. Ironically, on ethics. And they demanded that I drop out, or implied that I would lose my job. And in that moment, the natural reaction is to simply resign. But still, I hesitated. And I had support. I had the support of my friends, I had the support of my partner, I had the support of my family. I even had the support of my supervisor and the team itself, supporting the decision to drop out and do this talk anyway. But I hesitated. I received the information on Friday and I waited all the way till Monday to make the decision to resign. And that was because the moment you're faced with something like this, an obstacle, especially if you're someone who needs the job or wants the job or cares about a cause. The moment you get that, you have that voice that whispers in the back of your mind. It's just one more opportunity. I mean, others will come along, but you need this job. You have bills to pay. You have that whispering voice that says, look, I mean, were you really going to be that good anyway? It's totally fine. Look, other opportunities will come along. That voice might say, well, if you show you're a team player this time and give it up, then they'll notice you later and they'll recognize you, and then everything will be great. You have that little voice that tells you, well, if they don't think I can do this and they want me to drop out, maybe I wasn't good enough to do it anyway. And because of that voice, a lot of the time people stay. They stay in work environments that are as toxic as the one I left, or perhaps even that make my environment seem toxic light compared to what they're going through. And they stay. In my case, I was lucky because I had a support network around me that allowed me to make the hard decision to leave that organization with no position lined up, no job on the horizon, and just walk into the world of unemployment. But for many people, that is not the case. Because in that moment, many people face a harsh reality that I faced there, especially if you're a quote-unquote junior employee. That the concept of job and what job represents holds immense power. Immense power over your career, over your financial situation, but also over your friends, over your relationships, and over your social standing. And in the service of having a job, the tragic reality is that far too many people sacrifice any and all of the above just to have that job, just to stay close to a cause. The happy reality is that at least there are some organizations that are changing. I happen to work in one right now. The happy reality is that there are organizations that are recognizing that there is a difference in the way that they can approach employee relationships. Beyond the scope of simply using an employee for their skills and experience to achieve a goal, there's a value to partnering with that employee and helping them grow. This experience was a tough one, but it was also educational. Because it didn't just show me that organizations need to take the time to do the self-checks to ensure that their employees are happy, healthy, supported, and engaged. It didn't just show me that the most successful organizations are those that ensure that their employees feel partnered with that organization and help that organization grow in tandem. It showed me that there is a responsibility on the side of the employee as well. Junior employees, people looking for a new gig, to really look at the personality of an organization that you're choosing to go to. And to make a real decision, not just on the opportunity that comes with the job, not just on the brand name, not just on the cause if, like for me, you work in the not-for-profit sector, but on the way that you are going to be treated, and whether an organization is going to choose to support your brand, your goals, and your ambitions beyond the scope of what that job means. When the chief executive officer demanded that I drop out of that conference, he said, "This is simply a branding exercise, and I won't support that." Lack of support and lack of respect is the rot that lives in the heart of far too many organizations. And though there is a responsibility on the side of the organization to take steps to eradicate that heart and cure that disease, there's also a responsibility on the part of the employee to ensure that we choose organizations that will support and augment us, even as we deliver value to them. And if we do that for long enough, then maybe we'll be able to Darwin out those toxic work cultures so that the fittest organizations that survive are the ones that see employment as partnership, not as ownership.